It's official. Hell has frozen over. POKKEN Tournament for the Wii U, a console that sold dramatically less than the PlayStation 4, has outsold Street Fighter V in retail sales. What's up guys, Max here, and I'd hate to burden you all with another story talking about video game sales, but I think it's pretty important considering what happened as a result of all this stuff. About a week ago, I made a video talking about the success that Street Fighter V is having in tournaments at the cost of its retail sales and casual market. The question being presented was Capcom ready for the sales hit in order to enhance the esports branding around Street Fighter V and the Capcom Pro Tournament. Although this is not to be throwing shade at POKKEN by any means. I've played that game recently and I had no experience with arena fighters, and I've never really played a Pokemon game before, minus a very small bit way back in the day, and I just felt it was a little too grindy for me back when I was a teenager. But POKKEN Tournament, even though it seems like on its core level and its surface a very childish run around hit each other game, you're going to find a shocking amount of depth when you start going through the tutorial, and once you start playing the game and you have to absorb everything the tutorial throws at you, it's not as complicated as it's made out to be, but it definitely shows you how competitive this game can absolutely be, and holy shit, apparently a lot of other people agree with me because POKKEN is up to over 1,000 people signed up at EVO, the grand championship for the game coming up this year. POKKEN Tournament definitely deserves its sales that it got. The fact that it beat Street Fighter V is a precedent that goes to show word of mouth is more important than almost anything nowadays. POKKEN Tournament, while pretty good in its own right, isn't a giant fleshed out experience. It does have its modes, it has a proper arcade adventure mode, it has a decent tutorial, and it has functional online. The big difference between POKKEN and Street Fighter V is that POKKEN's been out for a long time. It's had an arcade version in Japan where they've refined the mechanics, kind of preparing themselves for the modes and everything that would be available in the console version, and SF5 is a PlayStation 4 exclusive. This game does not exist in Japanese arcade, which is a first for the mainline Street Fighter series, and it goes to show how much it affected its launch. Street Fighter 4, while being fairly bare bones at its launch, did have the usual that you'd come to expect from a Capcom fighting game, including versus CPU and an arcade mode that was attached from its arcade version, as well as other several hidden fights that you'd have to complete, unlocking characters like Gouken and Akuma. The word of mouth that spread around about Street Fighter V lacking all that stuff that people really enjoy about these games. We've talked about this several times about why casuals are important, why people don't want to compete with each other all the damn time, and sometimes competitive esports isn't what you're looking for in a fighting game. A lot of people just treat them like video games, and many people treat POKKEN probably the same way, where they would never ever touch the online. They just want to play the single player, fight the final boss, and that's exactly what POKKEN was doing. It was a game to appeal towards Pokemon fans, and I would say if you're a Pokemon fan in any way at all, or even if you kind of want to try out arena fighters, POKKEN was worth it. Like, that game was legit fun. I had a lot of fun playing it. But it also shows how poorly Street Fighter V did in retail sales. These numbers did not include the digital version, so we don't know how exactly many of the digital copies POKKEN were sold, as well as Street Fighter V, and I'd imagine Street Fighter V probably outsold POKKEN in that regard. But still, the biggest fighting game franchise out there was Street Fighter. Like, everyone kind of respects Street Fighter, and at this point, games like POKKEN are outselling it because of the bad word of mouth. But for you guys that like Street Fighter V, that are waiting for more content, like myself, to make the game a much more fleshed out experience, it's not all doom and gloom. Just recently, based on all the stuff we were talking about in the previous videos of the games not doing well, but doing fairly well competitively, the president of Capcom came out and said that they did not do a good job polishing up Street Fighter V, that they wish they spent more time and they delayed its launch a little bit later, which was ultimately the best bet because catering just towards the tournament audience was obviously a really bad call in terms of the negative press it gave Capcom over the launch of this game. There is going to be more down the line, but it was a promise that was not delivered yet, and that's what he was apologizing for. However, other things have come up recently that are making this potentially good news, as Capcom could be changing what they're going to be focusing around game development-wise in the future. Their latest quote says that they have a vast library of content in which there remains multiple IPs that have not been fully utilized to their full potential. These issues they're going to handle moving forward, and they're going to endeavor for further profitability improvements and unit sales growth by releasing all titles finished on a higher level of quality. This is in direct response to what happened with Street Fighter V and the fact that there's a ton of IPs and a ton of potential in the Capcom vault that they're obviously missing out on, that people like myself have been desperately asking for them to bring back. The glory days of Capcom back in the day. And based on this quote, it looks like it's a actual possibility, which is getting me very excited. All in all, I completely understand where people are coming from in regards to what happened with Street Fighter V. That game absolutely was not worth a $60 purchase at launch, and asking the trust of a lot of people from a company that doesn't have a great track record over the past few years was really asking a lot, and that's what made everyone so upset. If Street Fighter V was more like $30 at launch, that would have made things a lot better and gone over a lot easier with a lot of people. But even though many of the networking issues would have still had to have been fixed, while other games like POKKEN come out and they have functional online, it's not the best, but it does work. A whole bunch of characters that's appealing towards a fan base that was looking for something more on a system that obviously did not have a lot, which was the Wii U. POKKEN is a month behind Street Fighter V, and it's already outsold it in retail. That's saying a lot, and sometimes it takes a big punch to the gut for some of these companies to open their eyes and finally notice, wow, we should probably change the way we're doing something. Potentially Street Fighter V is the game to do that, but we are still going to be getting Street Fighter V support down the line, as they also officially said they plan to continually support the game with future add-ons and DLC. Essentially what's happening as a result of all this, Pokemon's good sales compared to Street Fighter V's poor sales, Street Fighter V underperforming, Capcom making a shift as far as how they approach their IPs, it's all good news. And for a lot of the people that were kind of upset in regards to what Street Fighter V did, this should be the result that you're looking for. Because overall, I don't want to see Capcom as a company with their amazing IPs like fall to the ground and then fly into the wind in the dusty remnants that they were. That's not what I want. I want them to learn from their mistakes, focus on what makes people happy, and then release games accordingly. Like, please release some games. It feels like there hasn't been many games from this company, outside of like Resident Evil Remake Remaster and Resident Evil Zero Remaster, which was a lot of damn fun. I only hope for E3 that Capcom can make its presence known again with some stuff that'll make its audience freaking happy. Like, please, Capcom, there's so much in that vault that is just so absolutely amazing that people have no idea, and I think we're ready to see it. As always, dudes, thank you a ton for watching and hanging out. Let me know what you think in regards to the future of Capcom based on all this stuff, and let's hope they hold their word and go forward with it as soon as possible. My name is Max, and I'll see you next time.